Tell her.
I would say, Oprah Winfrey, you know what you need to do. And stop hiding behind what you call was negative comments.
You can't build a resentment about it. You have to still try and love those people.
Yeah.
Because that's the way they're thinking.
Mel Gibson's name has always been synonymous with controversy, but his recent revelations are shaking Hollywood in ways no one saw coming. Known for his brutal honesty and often divisive opinions, Gibson is now making headlines for something far darker, exposing what he claims are deep, hidden ties between some of the entertainment world's biggest names and a network of illegal activities that no one wants to talk about. And at the center of this storm, the one and only Oprah Winfrey.
Did in fact occur, their argument is more than likely going to be that this activity was consensual, that this person was a willing participant, and not only that, but that these individuals assumed the risk of being present at those parties, of engaging and voluntarily engaging in this conduct and being in those spaces, consuming alcohol and things of that nature.
Now, Oprah is a name that conjures up images of philanthropy, success, and empowerment. She built an empire on giving people a platform to share their stories, often championing the underdog and fighting for those without a voice. So how could someone like her be involved in something so sinister? That's the question on everyone's minds right now, and Mel Gibson is the one forcing people to ask it.
And I've often felt it. I've sat there, and I have felt the knife slipped firmly in between my shoulder blades and tried to have it shoved through the other side through my heart.
Gibson isn't just another celebrity spouting off conspiracy theories. He's been working with anti-trafficking organizations for years, talking to survivors and learning about the horrifying realities that most of us would rather not think about. And according to him, some of the most powerful people in Hollywood have been using their influence to cover up these activities for decades. Oprah, he suggests, is not just a bystander, but someone who may have actively helped to shield these individuals from scrutiny. But what makes Gibson's claims even more explosive is the timing. His recent project, Sound of Freedom, is a film that dives deep into the world of trafficking, following the story of a federal agent who risks everything to rescue vulnerable people from a horrifying fate. While it's a fictionalized account, the film is based on real events, and it's clear Gibson wants people to understand how widespread this issue really is.
Now, the first step in eradicating this crime is awareness. Go see Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom has already made waves not just because of its subject matter, but because of the uphill battle it faced to even get released. Hollywood insiders have been whispering for months about how difficult it was to get this film made. Studios weren't interested, and there were delays and roadblocks at every turn. For a while, it seemed like the project might never see the light of day. But why? Why would a film that shines a light on such an important issue struggle so much to get support? This is where things start to get interesting. According to some sources, powerful figures in the industry didn't want this film to be made because it hit too close to home. Hollywood has always been a place where image is everything, and certain people would rather not have their names associated with anything that could damage their carefully crafted public personas. And Gibson believes Oprah might be one of those people.
Yeah.
The system is completely based on money.
Yeah.
The studio system.
Now, before we dive into the specifics of Oprah's alleged involvement in all of this, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Over the years, there have been countless rumors and whispers about the dark side of the entertainment industry. We've heard stories of exploitation, manipulation, and worse, but for the most part, these stories have stayed on the fringes. Sure, every now and then a major scandal breaks, but for the most part, the machine keeps chugging along, and the people involved in these activities continue to thrive.
And I was looking at a building with the top of the sixes on it, so there was a huge illuminated triple six in red.
Yeah.
And I went from that to that to that, and he started smiling. And I thought, oh no, Chris Walken is the Antichrist.
Yeah.
But what if someone like Oprah, someone who has built her entire career on being a voice for the voiceless, is actually part of the problem? That's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, but Gibson isn't backing down. He's pointed out that Oprah has been close to some questionable individuals over the years, and she's managed to maintain her status as one of the most beloved figures in entertainment, despite being surrounded by scandal after scandal. One of the key figures in this whole mess is none other than Diddy, another entertainment mogul who has faced his fair share of controversy. Gibson has implied that Diddy and Oprah have been involved in some seriously shady dealings together, and that their friendship goes far beyond what the public sees. According to Gibson, Diddy has been involved in activities that would shock most people if they knew the full extent of it, and Oprah has allegedly helped him cover it up.
It sounds like there was probably a lot of hidden cameras as well. Is that what is being talked about?
Yes, this was actually in his Atlanta home, at
Okay.
a home he had in Atlanta at one point. And it does seem that the person isn't like looking into the video, so it's, to me, doesn't seem like that person knows they're being videotaped. It doesn't seem like they're active participant in the videotaping.
Diddy's name has been all over the headlines recently, with multiple lawsuits and accusations piling up against him. These accusations range from serious misconduct to more widespread criminal operations involving some of Hollywood's most well-known names. And the more people dig, the more it seems like there's more to the story than what we've been told. Could Oprah's close relationship with Diddy be part of a larger effort to protect him and others like him? That's what Gibson seems to be suggesting.
The time I really came over here, I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Right.
And nobody was really bothering to explain it to me.
They don't.
And and I formed a bunch of opinions about the town.
But let's not forget that this isn't the first time Oprah's name has been linked to controversy. Over the years, she's had her share of feuds with other celebrities, and while most of them have stayed relatively low-key, there are a few that have raised more than a few eyebrows. Take her long-standing feud with rapper 50 Cent, for example. The two have been at odds for years, with 50 Cent accusing Oprah of being against the hip-hop community and using her platform to tear down successful black men. While this feud might seem like just another celebrity spat, some have wondered if there's more to it. Could 50 Cent have been onto something when he claimed that Oprah was actively working to sabotage certain people's careers?
Have y'all spoke after this?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't have anything against Oprah.
You just called her a
I'm gonna tell you why.
You named your dog Oprah, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
And then there's the situation with Monique. The actress and comedian has been vocal about how she feels Oprah betrayed her after Monique won an Oscar for Precious. According to Monique, Oprah was visibly upset that the crowd was cheering for her, and after that, things started to change. Roles that were supposed to go to Monique suddenly ended up in Oprah's hands, and her career began to stall. Monique has accused Oprah of using her influence to block her from getting work. And while it might sound like sour grapes, there's enough smoke here to make people wonder if there's fire.
Oprah Winfrey called us up, and she said my brother wanted to come on the show.
But the most damning accusation against Oprah comes from her alleged involvement in protecting people who have been accused of behavior that's far worse than just career sabotage. Remember when Oprah interviewed John of God, the so-called Brazilian healer who was later accused of unspeakable acts? At the time, Oprah praised him, giving him a platform that helped him gain even more followers. It wasn't until years later, after hundreds of women came forward with allegations against him, that people started to question why Oprah had been so eager to promote him in the first place. And let's not forget about Oprah's connection to Harvey Weinstein. When the allegations against Weinstein came to light, many people were shocked to see how many powerful figures in Hollywood had been complicit in keeping his behavior under wraps. Oprah was one of those people, and while she's tried to distance herself from Weinstein since the scandal broke, there are still questions about how much she knew and when she knew it. After all, Oprah had been close to Weinstein for years, even calling him a friend in interviews. Could she have turned a blind eye to his actions because it was more convenient for her to do so?
We're monitoring another push to free Sean Diddy Combs tonight, with his legal team citing new evidence in an updated bail proposal. The music mogul agreeing to around-the-clock security and cutting out contact with basically anyone but his legal team to get out of jail ahead of his trial scheduled for May of next year for charges he allegedly coerced and abused women for years.
All of this paints a picture of someone who is deeply embedded in the Hollywood system, someone who has used their influence to protect not just themselves, but others who may be involved in activities that most people would find appalling. And while Oprah has always been careful to maintain her image as a champion of the downtrodden, these recent revelations are forcing people to take a closer look at who she really is. Now, to be fair, it's important to remember that none of this has been proven. These are all allegations, rumors, and accusations that have yet to be fully substantiated. But that's what makes this whole situation so fascinating. The fact that someone as respected and admired as Oprah could be involved in something so dark is almost too much for people to believe. But then again, isn't that exactly how these things work? The most powerful people are often the ones who are the hardest to take down because they've built up such a strong public persona that it's nearly impossible to imagine them doing anything wrong. And that's exactly what Mel Gibson is trying to get people to understand. He's not saying that Oprah is solely responsible for everything that's wrong with Hollywood, but he is saying that she's a part of a much larger system that has allowed these activities to go unchecked for far too long. And if someone like Oprah can be involved, then who else is hiding behind their carefully curated image?
Movies like this, documentaries like this, shows like this,
there's a lot of people that don't want to do it because where are you going to platform it? Where are you going to put it up? But if there's a guy that could do it and pull it off.
This brings us back to Sound of Freedom. The film's release has been met with mixed reactions, with some praising it for shedding light on an important issue, while others have criticized it for being too sensationalist. But regardless of how you feel about the film itself, there's no denying that it sparked a conversation that Hollywood has been trying to avoid for years. Gibson has made it clear that he's not afraid to take on the big names in the industry, and he's using this film as a way to force people to confront the uncomfortable truths that they've been ignoring for far too long. And it's not just Gibson who's speaking out. Dave, another celebrity who's never been afraid to speak his mind, has also had his fair share of run-ins with Oprah. During an appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show, Dave opened up about the pressure he faced in Hollywood, saying that the people around him were trying to control him and push him into situations that made him uncomfortable. At one point, Oprah even asked him if he thought he had lost his mind, to which Dave responded, "No, not exactly, I wasn't crazy, but it's incredibly stressful."
It was completely outside of my frame of reference. I've been in show business since I was 14, and I've heard the stories.
Dave's comments have taken on a new significance in light of everything that's come out about Hollywood in recent years. He's been one of the few celebrities willing to call out the industry for what it is, and his experience with Oprah only adds fuel to the fire. Could it be that Dave, like Gibson, saw something darker lurking behind the scenes? Could his decision to walk away from his successful show have been about more than just creative differences? It's hard not to wonder, especially when you consider how many other celebrities have faced similar struggles. As more and more people start to question the official narrative, it's becoming clear that there's a lot more going on in Hollywood than meets the eye. And while we may never know the full extent of what's happening behind closed doors, one thing is for sure, the days of turning a blind eye are over. Thanks to people like Mel Gibson and Dave, the truth is starting to come out, and it's only a matter of time before the whole system comes crashing down.
You could, that some of your worst nightmares were real at the time, and you think, Now this is what I mean by actually starting to swim up or downstream with the rest of the salmon, you know, eventually, if you stay here long enough.
Yeah.
You'll find yourself doing that. And you have to, there's a way of doing it without doing it.
But that's where things get really interesting. Because if someone like Oprah, someone who has built her entire career on being a force for good, can be implicated in all of this, then what does that say about the rest of the industry? How deep does this rabbit hole go? And more importantly, who else is involved?
Please give me what I say this. I'm not trying to hurt you. I will never try to hurt you.
But let's be real for a second, Oprah's name being dragged into this mess isn't just another celebrity controversy. We're talking about Oprah Winfrey, one of the most powerful figures in entertainment. She's someone who's built an empire on trust, compassion, and being the voice for those who don't have one. For decades, she's been the queen of daytime television, a media mogul, and a philanthropist who's helped countless people. So, how could someone like that possibly be connected to the dark underbelly of Hollywood? Well, it's not just Mel Gibson who's pointing fingers. Over the years, Oprah has been involved in a number of feuds and controversies that make you wonder if there's a different side to this media icon that she's been hiding from the public. And these aren't just small, petty arguments either. We're talking about full-blown clashes with some of the biggest names in the industry. Let's start with 50 Cent. Now, if you've been following 50 Cent's career, you know he's not afraid to speak his mind, and he's had his fair share of beefs with other celebrities. But his feud with Oprah was on a whole different level. 50 Cent openly criticized Oprah for being against the entire hip-hop genre. He felt like Oprah was deliberately shutting out rappers from her platform because she didn't agree with the messages in their music. And for 50, that was personal. He even said in an interview that Oprah was completely against everything that was in my music, and that she'd never invite him on her show.
You have a couple of pets as well,
Yeah.
a dog and a cat with interesting names, to say the least.
Yeah. That's Oprah.
That's Oprah. Okay.
And here's the thing, 50 Cent wasn't the only rapper who felt this way. Ludacris, Ice Cube, and others have all had similar complaints about Oprah's attitude toward hip-hop. It's almost like there was this unspoken rule that if you were a rapper, especially one who talked about the harsh realities of life in their music, Oprah wanted nothing to do with you. But why? What was it about hip-hop that made her so uncomfortable? Some people have speculated that Oprah's distaste for hip-hop was less about the music and more about the people behind it. She's been accused of having a bias against successful Black men in the entertainment industry, men who've built their careers by being unapologetically themselves and not fitting into the mold that Hollywood expects them to. And that's exactly what 50 Cent was getting at when he said, if we can't be friends, then at least let's be enemies. He was basically saying, if you're going to ignore and criticize me, then I'm going to force you to pay attention.
Bullies in this business. And the bullies are so used to being bullies, they don't understand when somebody bite back.
Right.
Not bark back, they bite back.
Right.
Now, eventually 50 and Oprah did bury the hatchet, but their feud left a lasting impression. It made people question whether Oprah really was the champion of all people, or if she only supported those who fit into her carefully curated image of what success should look like. But if you think the 50 Cent feud was dramatic, just wait until you hear about Oprah's falling out with Monique. This one is even more intense and sheds some serious light on how Oprah might use her influence behind the scenes to control the narrative. So, remember back in 2010 when Monique won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for her role in Precious. It was a huge moment for her career, but little did people know that. Behind the scenes, a massive feud had been brewing between Monique and Oprah. According to Monique, it all started when Oprah invited her family, yes, her family, onto her talk show to discuss Monique's personal life, including her strained relationship with her brother, who had done some truly awful things to her in the past.
Now I begin to see commercials with my brother, my mother, my father, and my other brother.
Monique says that Oprah called her beforehand to ask if she was okay with her brother appearing on the show. Monique agreed, but only because her brother wanted to apologize. What Missouri Nikki didn't know was that Oprah would also bring Monique's parents onto the show, people she didn't have a good relationship with. It felt like a massive betrayal, and Monique has been vocal about how hurt she was by Oprah's actions. In an interview, Monique said, "You've been unfair, you've been unjust, and you watched a black woman be thrown on the bus, and you said nothing." That's a strong accusation, especially given Oprah's reputation as someone who supposedly stands up for those who are marginalized. Monique felt used, like her personal trauma had been exploited for ratings, and she's never been shy about calling Oprah out on it. But it didn't stop there. Monique also claims that after her Oscar win, her career opportunities started to mysteriously dry up. Roles she was supposed to get went to other people, and she believes that Oprah, along with other powerful figures in Hollywood like Tyler Perry and Lee Daniels, were behind it. According to Monique, Oprah and these other industry heavyweights branded her as difficult to work with, essentially blackballing her from future projects. And while it might sound like just another Hollywood feud, Monique's story highlights something much deeper: how someone as powerful as Oprah can allegedly pull strings behind the scenes to control someone's career.
And then we said, "But did you pay her fairly?" And then he said, "I paid her more than she's ever made."
Monique said in an interview that she was supposed to play a role in The Butler, a movie that Oprah ended up starring in. Monique claims that she was offered the part first by director Lee Daniels, but then Oprah swooped in and took it. Coincidence, maybe. But when you start to piece together all these incidents, it paints a pretty troubling picture of how Oprah might be using her influence to not just build her empire, but to keep others from rising too. And Miss Serenique isn't the only person who's accused Oprah of using her power to control the narrative. There's also the case of John of God, a so-called spiritual healer from Brazil who Oprah once featured on her show. At the time, Oprah praised him as a miracle worker, and that episode helped elevate his profile internationally. But years later, it came out that John of God was involved in some seriously disturbing activities. Hundreds of women came forward with allegations against him, and it became clear that this healer was anything but.
Everybody familiar with the old Houdini? So what Diddy's lawyers are trying to do is pull a Houdini. They're trying to say that the evidence that they have is different. Well, it's not different. The video that the entire world has seen is not going to go away. The fact that he had parties that were freak-offs is not going away. So it's just a question of whether or not Diddy is able to make bond.
Now, Oprah has tried to distance herself from John of God since these revelations came to light, but people are still questioning why she gave him a platform in the first place. Did she not know about his shady past? Or did she ignore the warning signs because it was more beneficial to her brand to align herself with someone like him? It's hard to say, but it's definitely a bad look for someone who's built her career on being a champion of truth and justice. And then, there's her connection to Harvey Weinstein. When the Weinstein scandal broke, it seemed like every major figure in Hollywood was scrambling to distance themselves from him. But the thing is, Oprah had been close to Weinstein for years. There are photos of them together at events, and she even called him a friend in interviews. So, how much did Oprah really know about what Weinstein was doing behind closed doors? Did she hear the rumors and choose to ignore them like so many others in the industry? Or was she genuinely in the dark about his behavior?
I mean, that fact in of itself is a big deal, because when you're talking about going back in time and talking about these allegations from other alleged victims, there's not a lot of police reports, but you guys actually have one. And is that going to be revealed? Are we going to be able to see it?
Yes, as soon as I file my lawsuit in civil court, I will be attaching the...
One person who doesn't think Oprah was oblivious is singer Seal. After Oprah gave her famous speech at the Golden Globes, where she talked about the Time's Up movement and the importance of holding people accountable, Seal posted a meme of Oprah and Weinstein together with the caption, "When you have been part of the problem for decades, but suddenly they all think you are the solution." He accused Oprah of knowing about Weinstein's behavior and doing nothing about it. Seal's post went viral, and it got a lot of people talking about whether Oprah really was as innocent as she claimed to be. And it's not just Seal who's raised these questions. Dave, during his infamous interview with Oprah, also seemed to hint that there's more going on in Hollywood than meets the eye. When Dave walked away from his highly successful show, people thought he had lost his mind. But during that Oprah interview, Dave explained that the pressure of being in Hollywood and maintaining control over his career was overwhelming. He said he felt like people were deliberately putting him through stressful situations to control him.
So what is happening in Hollywood? Nobody knows. The worst thing to call somebody is crazy, is dismissive.
Oprah's response to Dave was telling. When she asked him if he thought he had lost his mind, it almost felt like she was dismissing his concerns, as if the idea that Hollywood could be a toxic environment was too far-fetched to take seriously. But Dave didn't back down. He stood his ground and made it clear that he wasn't crazy, he was just tired of being controlled by people who didn't have his best interests at heart. And here's the thing, Dave's experience isn't unique. So many other celebrities have come forward with similar stories about how the Hollywood system tries to control them and how difficult it is to break free once you're in it. And while Oprah has always positioned herself as a champion of those who are oppressed, these stories raise the question of whether she's really on the side of the people or if she's just another player in the game. Now, let's talk about Diddy for a moment. His name has been all over the news recently, with allegations and lawsuits piling up against him. These aren't just minor accusations either. Some of the claims against him are shocking, and they paint a picture of someone who's been involved in some seriously questionable activities for years. But what does this have to do with Oprah?
Still pretty early in the proceedings. I think it's only been about a month or a month and a half since he's been arraigned and held in detention. And so the investigations are always going to be a continuous and ongoing process. I'm sure at this point there's been an exchange of discovery. And not only that, but I think there's been a gag order placed on the attorneys with information that they can and cannot share. But more importantly, it's still...
Well, Diddy and Oprah have been friends for a long time. They've been spotted together at events, and they've publicly supported each other in the past. But as more and more details about Diddy's behavior come to light, people are starting to wonder if Oprah knew what was going on behind the scenes. Was she aware of the allegations against him and chose to stay silent? Or was she completely in the dark, just like everyone else? It's hard to say for sure, but it's clear that Oprah's relationship with Diddy is raising eyebrows. And it's not just because of the recent lawsuits, there's also the fact that Diddy has been linked to some of the same dark circles that Mel Gibson has been talking about. Could it be that Oprah's connection to Diddy is part of a larger network of powerful people who are all protecting each other? It's not outside the realm of possibility, especially when you consider how many people in Hollywood seem to be connected in ways that the public doesn't always see.
And if he does, this new, quote, robust bail package, you can avoid and evade. And he is very connected with people that can help him avoid and evade. I'm not saying he will, but I would be surprised if the court grants him a bond. When the federal government wants you detained, you are normally detained. And here it was a very far-reaching situation that he was involved in.
And that's exactly what makes this whole situation so fascinating. On the surface, Oprah seems like the last person who would be involved in anything shady. But when you start to dig a little deeper and look at the people she's associated with, the feuds she's had, and the controversies that have surrounded her, it becomes clear that there's more to the story than what we've been told. So what do you think? Could Oprah's ties to figures like Diddy and Weinstein truly be part of a deeper web of corruption in Hollywood? Or is this all just a case of exaggerated conspiracy theories? And does Mel Gibson have a point in calling out the industry's darker side, or is he just stirring the pot for publicity? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insider gossip. See you in the next video.